another thing, particularly on the construction side, is when you're running a company, you can often be forced to feel like you've got to take the cash or at least discount your prices to be able to compete against companies that are taking cash. So that's another kind of consideration and why I think it's an important and worthwhile subject to talk about. Hey everybody, this is JP. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of taking what I call dodgy money. Now, if you don't know what I mean by that, probably this video is not relevant for you. But I also understand that you might be curious and you also might use different terminology. So essentially, I'm talking about if you are doing business and taking money essentially in cash. And not giving an invoice for it, not declaring that income, and kind of pocketing it under the books, off the books, let's say. The construction industry in particular, it's done a lot, particularly in residential, where homeowners don't necessarily need invoices or request invoices, and are always looking to try and save a bit of money, and always kind of trying to tempt builders by paying in cash. There's obviously lots of other industries as well that have this issue that's kind of more prevalent than others. And I think another thing, particularly on the construction side, is when you're running a company, you can often be forced to feel like you've got to take the cash or at least discount your prices to be able to compete against companies that are taking cash. So that's another kind of consideration and why I think it's an important and worthwhile subject to talk about. In terms of how I wanted to present this, I didn't want to do it as a kind of pros and cons of taking cash because firstly, I don't want to get in trouble with the HMRC or the IRS from a tax point of view or tax avoidance point of view or any of that. So just to be clear, I'm not advocating to take cash payments in your businesses. And if anything, this video is really about talking about, some of the reasons maybe not to do that. And I'm not going to talk about, I think, the kind of obvious pros and cons of, saving money, making more money, risks from contractual point of view and stuff like that. I kind of really wanted to touch on a few elements that, I think from speaking to clients, I kind of understated a little bit, but actually can be quite significant things to consider. So if you are in that position where you're either taking cash, thinking of taking cash, or just, curious about what should I do, or is this something for my business, then I think this is going to be useful for you. So initially, I set out to do 5 points. I wrote 1 to 5, but then I realized that I only had written 4 points and I missed out point 3 for some reason. So it's actually only 4 points that I've got. I kind of didn't want to spend more time than this writing down and trying to think of another point. So I'm going to give you 4 points that I think we want to consider. So let's get into it. Number 1 is since COVID, there has definitely been less companies, businesses that are taking cash, and you often go into coffee shops, restaurants, supermarkets, different places that you spend your day-to-day money, where there'll be a sign saying card only, and that's definitely on the rise, where businesses just want to get rid of handling cash because of all the admin that comes with it and the cost and all of that. So where I think this is relevant for a business owner that is potentially taking a load of cash and not declaring it, so can't put it in a bank account, is I guess you can find that money that you would usually spend on your day-to-day expenses, if the pool of where you can spend that money is shrinking, then you'll probably find that you're spending money in areas that you probably wouldn't do if that money was just in a bank account. So the typical thing for a builder, for example, is to buy a truck, a car, a Range Rover, watches, jewelry, going on holidays, all of that kind of stuff, which maybe you wouldn't actually do. But if you just got this lump of cash that is just kind of sitting around, then it's kind of somewhere to park it. And it's not necessarily those things are actually investments, especially again because it's not like a rental property or something where you could declare that income essentially. So that point is I think targeted at those business owners that are taking cash and not using that cash to pay for labour and materials or anything like that. They're actually taking that cash and essentially pocketing it as some source of income. So point number 2 is now kind of looking at the business side of things. Is I really do believe that taking cash can and not declaring it and having that as a function of your business can really affect the scalability of the business and where you can take it. You may be in a position now where you are the main person. Maybe you're going on the jobs, you're meeting the customer, the client, picking up that money, taking it back, counting the money, and all of that stuff is all you. And at the moment, that might be okay. That may feel okay. But as soon as you get into a position where you want to start delegating things, especially the sort of project management side of things, then that can sometimes be tricky, because if you're going to hold on to the responsibility of picking up money, it's going to be very hard for you to go to a client, pick up money, and not be drawn into a conversation about this issue with your project or that issue with your project. So you could get yourself into a situation where you've got a project manager, but they're getting bypassed because the client is just waiting for the time where you come on site to pick up the money. And at that point, you get bombarded with all the issues where really you're trying to kind of delegate things. If you are not at that stage and you are still doing everything, at some point, assuming you do want to kind of grow the business and remove yourself a little bit from the kind of on-the-site day-to-day stuff, you're going to have to hire somebody. And you may think, okay, well, maybe that person can pick up the money. If that is going to be the case, then suddenly you've got this additional criteria of who you need to hire as a site manager or a project manager. So if we take an example of two separate companies, company A that doesn't take cash and everything is done through paid invoices on bank transfer or card payments, you just need somebody that can keep the site tidy, can organise the trades, and there isn't a sort of tier of trust that you need from that point of view. It's just, can they fulfil that role? But if you then got the same type of company, but they are taking 10, 20, 30,000 pounds in cash at any one time from a client, and you want to hire somebody that can fulfill that role, suddenly you've added a huge additional criteria from like a trust point of view, because you're getting to close to the salary that this person is being paid, that they're going to be handling in money every time you're receiving a payment. So I definitely think that from a scalability point of view, if you're at that stage that you do want to grow, it's probably something that at some stage would need to be phased out. And it's always better, I think, to remove that and phase that out of your business sooner rather than later, if possible. The next point, so point number 3, I think this is kind of related to it actually, is the hidden time sink that comes with dealing with cash, as opposed to having a business where everything is transaction wise is digital, virtual. So if you are having to again go to the sites to pick up the money, and then especially if you're then taking it back and then distributing it to all your staff and driving to the builder's merchant to put the money down on the counter to pay for the stuff that way and all of that, then you may think that that doesn't take that much time because you might be doing it while you're on your way to XYZ. But if you compound that over weeks, months and years, that is a lot of time that you could be doing something else in your business, or could just be doing something else outside of your business. So it obviously does vary depending on what you or the business owner is doing and how they're operating that, how frequently they're taking payments. But without a doubt, having payments go through virtually is significantly less time overall than going and picking up money. The last one, this is going back, I think, so this is point 4, going back to the more personal side of things, is I do believe that there's a bit of a security aspect to things. Getting in, you're going to have to put it somewhere, right? You're not going to go and spend that all at once. Now, again, you can't put it in the bank. So most small to medium sized construction companies, especially, they're operating from like a small office or sometimes even their home. So that can really get to a point where you've got money sitting around in your house and or you know, in your office, and a lot of people are going to know about it. You know, you're dealing with lots of clients, builders, merchants, tradespeople that are all knowing and getting paid in cash. And they're not stupid. They're going to understand that, well, this cash is accumulating somewhere. So if that place is the same place that you have other things that you value outside of money, so like your family, you know, other types of valuables and things like that, I think there's going to be a level of nervousness around the thought that you've just got this pile of money sitting in your place. And obviously that doesn't exist if you have got you know, money in a bank account and you know it's kind of protected if anything happens, generally from fraud or anything like that. So that's point number 4, which I think is quite subtle. I don't think it's spoken about that much. And obviously, again, it does vary, depend on each person's situation and how they're setting things up and running things. So I'm going to wrap it up there. As I said, I do believe that this is more pro not taking cash payments and not declaring it. So, you know, don't come after me, Mr. Taxman. I am advocating for builders and everybody to do business in the right way.